This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in to another episode of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am the Doc. Joining me, my guy Adam, the Jock Strozinski, proud papa. I'm so happy to hear all the great news for your family. All is great, thank goodness. Moms and babies are healthy. It's a great opportunity to talk about a lot of good things happening for you. And this week we're going to talk about, kind of how tough it is for Adam and I to kind of take in the, NHL and NBA playoffs, because you're starting to see teams that have assets that the Red Wings and Pistons have, and they're able to rebuild in a much better fashion than the Pistons and the Red Wings. And you look at it and you go, man, when you start to see the Pacers succeeding, even though they blew the first game against the Celtics, you see the Stars and the Edmonton Oilers going to face off against each other. Really? Are you serious right now when we look at Ken Holland and Jim Nill, two guys that were integral to the Red Wings? Now they're having success. It makes it tough still watching it to see how the good teams and the good organizations are run, but man, is it tough. But Cuz, congrats, man. A lot of good news for you and your family.
Yeah, I'm a dad. It was it was like back in January, sometime in 2020, we did a show where I was getting divorced and I talked about how I wanted to have a kid and all this and that. And fast forward 4 years, some change later, and I'm married and I got a baby. I have a beautiful baby girl, Catherine Joy. She was born on May 19th. And here we are, man. You were gracious enough to come up to the hospital and visit us. Very shortly after you left, we ended up getting put in the NICU. It was just precautionary stuff. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's happy. Baby's in the living room right now, getting worked with the dogs, because we've got 5 of those. So the baby and the dogs all got to meet. So they're all meeting right now while we record. So if you guys do hear barks in the background, it's my dogs. They're getting introduced to my daughter. So good times, man. Good times. Like, it's crazy. We started this podcast off, and I don't even know if Maddie was born yet. She might have been. Or at least we're kicking the idea around and she wasn't born. But I know, though, that first year you could hear her in the background all the time. And then Olivia came, and now Catherine's here, and it's crazy, dude. It's it's nuts, man. We both have kind of grown so much doing this show together, and our families have grown so much doing the show together that it's pretty great. It's special. It's special that we've been able to do this for so long, that we're able to mature in this field that we're doing. We're able to mature in other fields, and we're able to mature with our families the way that we have. So it's pretty cool, dude. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. And like I said, welcome to the wild ass roller coaster of parenthood. It really, it's basically best described as a roller coaster. Nothing is easy, but the blessing is when you go through stuff, you just chalk it up to experience, and you realize that Catherine Joy has 2 great parents, and now you embark on the journey of fatherhood. Is great. It's unbelievable. And I think it's great that, you and I got the player's curse, as they would all say, is that, the bad boys always end up with the girls, and it'll change you. The best part about being a girl dad is the way when you see them grow up and how they act towards you. It's just nothing like it. Can't wait for you to experience it. I know that the journey. Look, I'm just giving you credit for showing up here, because I know when we text, you're like, dude, I'm mentally exhausted. Like, I don't even know what day it is, what time it is.
I was gonna say, if I sound off today, please be patient with me. I probably have slept a total of 8 hours over the course of the last 3 or 4 days. Oof. There was a point there where I wasn't sure what day it was. I think it was Tuesday. It was on Tuesday, and Alyssa and I are talking. They took KJ back to do some tests on her, and Alyssa and I are talking. I'm like, what day is it even? And everything just kind of ran together. And I was like, it feels like we've been here for a week. And I looked. I was like, we've been here for about 2.5 days, but it felt like we have been there for a week. And she was like, it's only Tuesday, and I was like, yeah, it's only Tuesday. And it's just neither one of us, no sleep. And it's just, you're getting bounced around. You're trying to watch her, be patient with her. You're trying to, dude, it's just a learning curve, and it's crazy. So if I'm a little bit off today, please be kind, because I am tired.
Please be kind. You ever heard of fucking coffee? What are you talking about? Get
Bro,
your shit together. Life don't stop
funny,
because you had a baby.
I'm gonna take a
Good
I'm gonna
Lord.
take a picture. And I'm gonna tweet it at you right now. I'm gonna tweet it at you right now. I'm taking a picture of it. I've got this monster cup of coffee. It's I think it's probably about 28 ounces, and it is full, and I'm sucking it down as fast as I can.
Oh, that's great.
Dude, look, we're recording. It's 4:45 right now. We're recording. And as we pulled this up, before you hit the record button, if you listen closely, you could hear me crunching. That was the first thing I've had to eat today. It's freaking 5 o'clock, and this is the first time I've had something to snack on, and it was a granola bar. It was one granola bar that I had to snack on. So it's just, dude, it's crazy. Like I guess like Maddie had something similar, but it sounded like your guys' was much more severe than what KJ had to go through. When you get put in the NICU, man, it's just bonkers, you know. And I don't know, first time dad, everything has me scared. So I'm over there, and I just want to be a part of everything, you know. So it just, you know, not everybody's like, just go take a break, go take a nap, go do this, and it's just like, you can't. No. I won't allow myself. It just doesn't happen.
No, it was a little tough.
So.
My first was 6 weeks early, but she was born 5 pounds 10 ounces. So when you saw the others in there, it just, you know, when you hear preemie and all that you just kind of get nervous. But basically, we just had to wait for her to hit some markers, and it just took forever. So the toughest part was leaving the hospital for the first 2 weeks after she was born and leaving your kid there. It's a little bit torturous, but it was like we left at 9 and got there at like 7 a.m. So it was tough, but you get through it, and you recognize, okay, she's going to hit those markers. It's not like she's never going to hit, you know, the part where you got to eat a certain amount and grow a certain amount. So it was never any health issues. It was just, okay, she's early, she's 6 weeks. She's got to do a couple things before they felt comfortable. It was about 2 weeks. And then we kicked it off. So it was in July, in the middle of July. So it was the summer months. It was definitely tough on the missus, but it's just a situation in which, okay, make sure the baby's healthy, all that matters, and then we were ready to go. And I'm thankful that you have the opportunity to be there, spend quality time with the family, get stuff in order, and really understand, look, Adam's wanted to be a dad for so long, and there's no better person to have this opportunity at this perfect time with being in spring. And having this opportunity to kind of take a pause and just focus on family. It's the best time. So like I told you at the hospital, take a lot of photos. Make sure you don your baby in the present that I got you. Don't just pretend like it didn't happen. So to share, I got the little baby a Michigan State onesie.
Yes.
Now, I'm a fair individual. I got the Michigan State onesie for her to wear right now, which is most important to me. And then as she grows up, she can then shift away and the parents can decide. But then in 3 to 6 months, there are opportunities for her to don the ugly-ass yellow and maize and whatever color with the block M. So those photos I don't need to see, but that definitely send me the photos of our little baby girl in the Michigan State gear. It looks perfect, way better than the other thing I got. I just said, okay, I'll do that and just be fair. But I don't even recall what that other thing looks like. I just know that green and white looks great, gray and green. Everything with the block S is perfect. And now you embark on a great journey and just enjoy it. Take advantage of the situation. But yes, get sleep when you can. Make sure you do eat when you need to. You got to have a full amount of energy. And it's okay. We'll forgive you for today for everything. But I do want to ask.
Just a little bit of a break today.
Yes.
I'll try to bring it though.
I do want to ask, are you jealous of the fact that, look, now you got, I know you're a big hockey guy. I know you're at least paying attention a little bit to the fact that, okay, we're in the conference finals. And
bro. The NHL playoffs have been unbelievable.
Sick.
It's one of those things where I will put it on at night. You know, I get up early in the morning for work. I will put it on at night, and I will get sucked into a hockey game where I'm laying in bed and it's 11:15, and I'm like, "What are you doing? You've got to get up in about 4.5 hours. You need to figure this out right now." And I don't want to shut it off, but I force myself. And Alyssa's the same way. She loves playoff hockey, and it's just one of those things. We're laying in bed, we're watching it. She was uber pregnant, and it was like this was the best part. This was the plan. Honestly, this was the plan for Monday night. So obviously we've got Monday Night Raw that we've got to watch, right? So I have my laptop in the computer in the hospital. The plan was for us with the baby. We're going to have basically a small camp out in our room. We're going to have the game 7 between Vancouver and the Oilers going, and we were going to have the laptop up with Monday Night Raw going, and we were going to watch and just love everything that was going on. in the end, we were stuck in a NICU room with no TV and just trying to figure out what's going on, making heads of tails of everything, and just being completely exhausted and just out of our minds with the whole birthing process. But that was the plan. Like, the NHL playoffs are fantastic right now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off as you were setting it up, but I'm loving what I'm seeing with the NHL playoffs. And I will tell you this. After every game that I watch, I ask myself one question. Could the Red Wings hang with any of these teams? And I come away with the same exact answer every time. And the answer is always no. And I'm just like, that's depressing. Like, they don't have the offensive power. They don't have the defensive capabilities to stymie anybody. And goalie is a giant question mark. So I'm just kind of like, the Wings seem like they are very, very distant for the playoffs right now.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate. Look, do you have rooting interest with the Oilers? Are you like hate watching them? Or do you say, you know what? To me, I think the Rangers, if they play their A game, they probably have the best team. But I think the Oilers probably are the team that everybody's kind of rooting for because of Connor McDavid. They want to see the top elite guys play. I think the Rangers and Oilers would be spectacular, but I think both series are going to be really special to watch in the conference finals. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a different game. The fast pace, goaltending, defense, the opportunities that you see that they bury on the power play, they make the opponents pay in a lot of situations, and there's a lot of clutch play on both sides. And you recognize, okay, the Wings got a long way to go, as do the Pistons. You look at the NBA and you say, oh my God, these guys can shoot. They can play at a high level. You saw the Knicks, even though they got worn down, they played a high level of defense. You saw talent. You saw the best players emerge with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. You see good players end up doing good things, and each team has a superstar that is playing at a high level. So that's just the way it is, and that's where it stinks for Tigers fans and Pistons fans, because right now, when you observe it, it's just so unfortunate because literally in Rebuild City, we've been talking about it now for the last 5-6 years. When the Pistons or the Tigers get a good player, a la Tariq Skubal or Cade Cunningham, because the rest of the team sucks, the Tigers now losing to Kansas City are now 3 games under 500 as we record. They're 23-26. The talk now, the narrative going around online and the debates are, well, the only way you get more talent is to trade Tariq Skubal. The only way you get more talent is to trade Cade Cunningham. And it's so unfortunate that Scott Harris just is handcuffed, can't add talent, and Troy Weaver wouldn't know talent if it hit him square in the face. So unfortunately, that's the byproduct of when you have general managers that don't add talent properly. For those of you that are baseball fans, you see Kansas City, they spent $100 million and got talent, and they're 13 games over 500. That's a model you could say, okay, do that. For those of you that say, oh, well, Chris Ilitch is not cheap. He went out and spent money, and he does things. It's like, okay, you can defend those kind of moves all you want, but the perception in sports is reality. And the perception for the Tigers is they're cheap. They didn't go out and get the bats needed. And the perception of the Pistons is they're defunct. And so it's just really terrible because, you look at it and you say, I don't personally want to trade Tariq Skubal. I don't want to trade Cade Cunningham. Personally speaking, I think they're foundational pieces. Those are good, talented dudes. Those are guys that deserve to get paid and can execute, and you could see them being in Detroit for a long period of time. But unfortunately, Doc and Jock, we're realists. And for me, I would say based on the fact that the Tigers are devoid of talent and the Pistons are so far gone and so far distant from the Pacers and the Celtics and, teams in the West, I say to myself, you have to trade them. You have to get, if you can get one good shooter and a draft pick for Cade Cunningham, hey, if you can get multiple first-round picks, you try and make the deal. Maybe the president of basketball operations can be savvy and do some things. If you can trade Tariq Skubal for multiple bats and a prospect, I think you got to do it. I know many people get upset when everybody says, well, every time there's a good player, Doc and Jock, and everybody says, go trade him. Well, that's the only way we have the belief that the general managers can get anybody is take one player and maybe get 3. That's the only way, because we certainly aren't waiting for the draft. We certainly aren't waiting for all these young guys that are taking forever to cook. So that's just my opinion. I think we're forced to have the opinion that Tariq Skubal and Cade Cunningham need to be shipped.
Yeah, and look, I agree with you where the front offices of these teams have really left us with little to no hope as far as the ability to make moves bring in talent. It really feels like there's a lot of swings and misses, right? Which is why when it comes to a guy like Tarek Skubal, I don't necessarily want to trade him away for pieces because I'm not sure if I trust that front office for the Detroit Tigers. You know, I'm not sure if Scott Harris necessarily understands or has the eyeball to pick guys and to make trades for guys. If you look at what happened last year at the trade deadline, he was totally bamboozled by his own player. And we ended up getting stuck with Erod. So with Tarek Skubal, I would love for them to he's got 2 years of arbitration left. I would love for them to go out and extend him early and be like, look, here's the olive branch. This is what we're doing. We're building around you. You're our guy. Look, Casey Mize was supposed to be the ace of this staff. I don't know what Casey Mize is going to be. I think in the long run, Casey Mize might be a good pitcher. You know, I don't think we're going to have a Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer type of situation where you've got two legit aces who are going to be able to carry your team. I really do feel like Tarek Skubal is kind of your Max Scherzer, and you really need to kind of learn from history. Put your money in that bag and build with Tarek Skubal. If Casey Mize would I guess be the Justin Verlander in this case, and look, Casey Mize could very well become a great pitcher, right? Could very well become one. Right now, I want to go with the sure product. And what Tarek Skubal is doing right now, he is ripping up other lineups. The issue is you don't have bats to support him or get runs in. And it's not just Tarek Skubal. There's a ton of guys. Flaherty's been left out in the dark on, I think, at least 3 or 4 games I can think of, just off the top of my head, where the team couldn't even drive in 2 runs to help the guy win a 1-0 ball game. So you do need pieces. You do need guys. And at that point, I look at the general manager and I look at the actual manager of this ball club, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? You need to roll out a better lineup, and whether that involves you going out in free agency, bringing somebody in, because I think that was where this team missed a huge mark. You could have went out and signed somebody in free agency and brought them in and added them to this roster to be able to generate some power and get some runs home. And look, guys, hitting is contagious. If you get a good hitter on your team, they start batting the ball all around the yard. Other guys are going to kind of follow suit. You can get on a bit of a roll, and it might be fake, but that fakeness can help you win some games. And instead of being 3, 4, 5 games down below 500, now you're 3, 4, 5 games up, and you're competing for the first spot in your division, which is where the Tigers really should be. If we go back and we look at it, they've now lost, I want to say, at least 10 games that they should have won. 10 games that they screwed around and they've lost. We're going to look back on the end of the season when they're missing the playoffs. We're going to be like, man, there were these 10 games that they should have won, and they didn't. They didn't execute. And it's because it's hard to find guys like a Tarek Skubal. I feel like Tarek Skubal is an ace. And, yeah, he's young, but I feel like you can build a team around this guy, and he could be that stud pitcher in your lineup. And then you can kind of build out the rest of your pitching staff around him and then start putting bats to help complement that pitching staff. And you could build a really good baseball team. The thing is, you need Scott Harris to do that. At this moment in time, I'm not willing to trade Tarek Skubal. I'm willing to build around him, and I would love to build around him because I think he's got all of the pieces to do it. And I just think it's so damn hard to hit on a guy. And look, Tarek Skubal is, I think, a prime example. This guy, it's not like he was the number 1 overall pick. It's not like he was drafted like Casey Mize. And I keep bringing up Casey Mize because I think it's a really good comparison. You went into that draft, and he was the guy that you had to have. He was the guy that everybody wanted. You drafted him, and look, like I said, he could turn out to be a very good player. But right now, what Tarek Skubal is doing, and where Tarek Skubal was drafted, and all the things that Tarek Skubal had to go through to get to this level, I feel like Tarek Skubal is the guy that you got to keep, and you gotta make him the ace of your pitching staff going forward.
Yeah, Tigers right now swept by KC, 9.5 games out. Everybody's talking about, oh, they could have got Chapman, they could have got this guy, they could have spent on this. So that's just where it's unfortunate. And I think the toughest part is in sports is when you're saddled with a contract that's so bad with Javier Baez. There's no legitimate reason. Yeah, he's going to have days. Look, he is in the major leagues, but he's just amongst the worst hitters that there are in the game. And for A.J. Hinch to kind of basically be forced to play him, there's no way that if you gave A.J. Hinch whiskey and said, hey, why are you playing this guy? He's going to be like, look, man, the contract. Plain and simple, we're paying him. We're not going to bench him. So I just think that it sucks because Javier Baez in the lineup is not, goes 1 for 4 against. Look at they're showing right now on the screen the Tigers box score. and it's filled with zeros and ones across the board. It's embarrassing at the highest level, and AJ Hinch is forced to play this guy. And it's not based on merit. It's not in any way, shape, or form based on his ability to hit. He's a losing player, minus WAR, meaning that every time you put him out there, you're
costing yourself.
You're costing yourself. So
yeah, you could put out a AAA player, and you're going to get more production. Look, a friend of the show, Jim Costa, ended up tweeting out. This looks like this was a tweet from yesterday, but he said the Tigers are much closer to the Pistons than the Lions. And I think he's right. I think this year we were expecting the Tigers to be in contention for the playoffs and possibly make a playoff run. And right now, the way it feels like they're closer to being the Pistons than they are to being the Lions. And that is sad. And look, they're not even anywhere close to – they're like in that weird middle ground where they might be the Red Wings, but they're going to end up tricking around and they're not going to do anything. And it's going to be just like the Red Wings. But I think his assessment is accurate. This team is closer to being the Pistons, a team that doesn't make the playoffs, a team that feels rudderless, a team that doesn't seem to have much of a future because you're not sure what it's supposed to be, compared to a team like the Lions where you've got all the pieces. You've got things put together. You've got the infrastructure. You have a plan. And I think that's the big problem with specifically the Tigers and the Pistons. It doesn't feel like they have a plan. With the Lions, when the Lions were going through their rebuild, we criticized it early on because we didn't get it. We didn't see it. We didn't understand. We were like, what are we doing here? But they had a plan and they stuck to their plan and their plan worked out. And yeah, in the end, we've got a little bit of egg on our face and we're willing to eat that egg all day long. It doesn't matter. Your plan worked out. We are big enough to say what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and what Sheila Ford and what that front office did was the right thing. They had their plan and they executed it to perfection, and they're continuing to execute on it. Pistons don't have a plan. Pistons seem like they are completely lost. The Tigers feel very similar. They keep telling us, "Oh, we don't want to block any of the young players. We don't want to keep any of the young bats down." That's why we're not going out and we're not bringing any free agents in and we're not signing anybody because we want the young guys to go up and do things. Well, have the young guys showed you anything? Are you trying to gift the young guys positions? If that's what you're trying to do, what example does that set? I want guys to win the position. So if you were to go out and you were to sign a guy like a Nick Castellanos, right, because that's the guy that everybody is familiar with and that's the guy that everybody talks about, you're able to go out and sign him. And look, I know his batting average probably isn't great, but he's hitting for more power and he's able to drive more runs in than anything you got on your lineup right now. You're able to slot him in. You mean to tell me if a guy like a Cole Keith or any of the other guys in the minors that you're looking to bring up, if they can't match him or outduel him, then you don't deserve to be here, And with the way this team is orchestrated, if you can get one of those guys from the minors to bubble up, there are enough guys like you mentioned, Javi Baez, that you can put on the bench. You can move and you can do other things with. You don't need to play a guy like Javi Baez. He's a black hole in your lineup. So the more quality at-bats that you get from guys, the better your team's going to be. And it just feels like this organization, they say that they have a plan. And look, I hope maybe we understand it in the future. But right now it feels like they are planless and it feels like they are rudderless, very similar to the Detroit Pistons.
Speaking of the Pistons, do you think they get bold? And I think it's interesting you wrote that on the sheet here. It's real interesting because many people joke around and say it in jest. Well, why don't they just go out and draft Bronny James because maybe he'll develop? But look, there's only one LeBron James, and just because he carries the young prospect, carries the name, doesn't mean he's going to eventually evolve into a great player. I just think that by all accounts, it's cute. It's a great story. Maybe you could even entertain a call with LeBron James, but he'll never finish his career with the Pistons. I think Bronny James coming to the Pistons is something that if Troy Weaver was truly in charge, maybe he'd do it just for the fun and shits and giggles. But no, I think they'll evaluate talent and they'll go with, I think, players that are a little bit more ready-made. You think I see Bronny James kind of in a lot of the mock drafts being in the second round. Why do you think he could be appealing for the Detroit Pistons at number 5? Maybe if you trade it down, then okay. If you trade down to the late 20s and you pick up another first-round pick next year, maybe you consider it. But in the top 10, I don't see anybody putting Bronny James that high. Being realistic, I think that he's got an uphill climb because look, I just think that, he's got a lot of pressure on him being that he's LeBron James' son, but I think he could develop into a player. But right now, it just seems like he's ranked a little bit as a second-round prospect right now.
Well, the whole, I'll give you a little background on kind of why I put this on the sheet. So Bronny James at basically the NBA prospects camp ended up, he started very rough, started incredibly rough, did not look good. And over the course of basically a week and a half, he kind of turned it around. He started kind of leading the team that he was on, started leading the units that he was playing with. And when he started doing the skills competitions that they have, he showed very well. So well that other mock draft analysts started to move him up from that second round and move him into that first round. And some people had him as high as being in the top 5. And the reason that I throw this out there is, one, because of what these other mock drafts are talking about, what these other scouts are saying about the way that he's been able to kind of elevate himself after a very rough start. One, I like that, right? I like that mindset, that mentality. Things weren't very good. Things didn't work out well for you your first day. You didn't fold up. You didn't crumble. You didn't cry. You figured it out and you got better. I like that. I think that's very, very good. The ability to compete well in all of the shooting and dribbling drills that they have and all of the skills challenge that they have to do, I like that as well. You say, why? Well, the reason why is sometimes having the ability to do certain things, being able to shoot from deep, being able to get the ball inside, make a shot, being able to hit a 7-foot or a 12-foot jumper. Sometimes those things don't come real natural to guys. He has that natural ability. So when things break down and you've got to create a shot, he has the ability to get that shot off. And sometimes it's just getting that shot off. And if you have a big man like Duren down low, he can crash the boards. The next thing you know, he's getting an easy tip in. Easy buckets are hard to find. So I like that as well. And look, being LeBron James's son is a difficult task to bear. Being LeBron James's son, going to USC and scoring less than 5 points on average a night is even harder. You're being scrutinized and criticized all the time. And the dude just continues again to show up. So he has a mental toughness, which I like. Now, this NBA draft is not very deep. It's not very good. It really feels like everybody in the top 5, top 10, it kind of feels like you're taking flyers on all these guys. The guys in the top 5 this year are probably guys that would go late first round, probably second round of any other draft that you were to compare it to. This isn't a strong draft class at all. You don't know a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys are French players, and a lot of these guys who are the French players, their claim to fame is playing with Wembayama. You look at some of the other guys who are getting into the draft that are here nationally, playing in college or playing in the G League, it really feels like they're just guys. So what I'm saying is Bronny James, in a very small sample size at the NBA draft combine, has showed a mental toughness, has showed the ability to perform, and maybe with some coaching, maybe with a little bit of time, he could possibly be a decent enough player. And if Bronny James is a gateway to possibly get LeBron here, I don't necessarily want LeBron. You know, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. LeBron at this advanced age is still a top 10 player in the game. So if you can get Bronny James and you get a top 10 player in the game and it could help your team out, I'm willing to give it a shot because, again, I don't feel like the Pistons have a plan. I don't feel like they have a legitimate future right now. You've got some guys, and some of these guys can play together. Some of these guys can't play together. I think you have to make a decision on what you're going to do with Cade Cunningham. He's basically due for a contract extension. You've got to figure out if you're going to max him out or not. And then you're gonna have Jaden Ivey coming up here very, very soon. You're gonna have the same problem in a year. You got to figure out if you're gonna max him out or not. These two guys can't really play together. I think they both have a ton of ability, but it's hard when you watch them on the floor try to do things. So ideally for the Pistons, it would be great to trade this 5th overall pick and somehow get a lotto ticket for next year, right? Trade this pick and get a first-round pick for next year. That would be the ideal scenario. Don't think it's going to happen. I think if you're stuck there, this is a bit of a known commodity, right? You know that in college, didn't perform extremely well. You know that there's a possible heart condition, so obviously that's got to get checked out. But what you've seen in a very, like I said, small sample size is he's got the mental acuity to handle this. He's got the mental awareness to handle the rigors of the NBA, and he doesn't shut down, doesn't fold up shop. On top of it, comes from a pretty good lineage. So if you want to put stock in that, go ahead. And if that is a key or the ability to possibly get a guy like LeBron here for a year or two to help you kind of settle this down a little bit, maybe help you build this foundation, I say, what the hell? Everything else that you've tried has completely failed. Everything else that you have tried has been an unmitigated disaster. And everything else that you've done has done nothing but set this organization back 10 years. So why the hell not try it at 5? See if this guy can come in. See if you can develop him. See if he can play. See if he gives you what you're looking for as a piece to possibly build around. And you know what? If it means getting his dad, who, like I said, at his advanced age is still a top 10 player, who can come in, give you quality minutes, possibly help teach the young guys how to win, because I don't think this team knows how to win. Why the hell not? What else you got to lose? This really feels like it's a bit of a lost draft, and right now this team feels like it's lost. So maybe it gives you a little bit of direction and it helps move you forward. That's where I'm coming from with it.
Okay, very interesting, very bold. Let us know at Detroit Podcast. Would you make a bold move, bold trade to bring in Bronny James at number 5, or maybe even just draft him if you do trade down? Now, with our last few minutes here, because we will let you get out of here a little early, a couple things with the Lions as they begin OTAs today in terms of the coverage for the media. They've been there for a couple days. The big thing clearly is we haven't yet to see Brian Branch in photos. We'll get an update on his health status as we've seen him in a walking boot. Derek Barnes was there. Dan Campbell is back, so everyone can calm down regarding him being away for a personal matter during rookie OTAs. We'll have a chance to talk to Dan Campbell for the first time in a minute, and we'll get some updates on some of those that are injured. It's the first time that we'll get a chance to see the vets take on the rookies. Probably, look, guys, I know everyone's excited. It's OTAs. They're in shorts and T-shirts. There will be competitive periods, probably 7-on-7 opportunities to see the team and see where different things are. But, look, you're not going to get a whole heck of a lot. You'll get a chance to talk to these guys, which is great. So, to me, I just want to see, obviously, clearly, QB1 potentially or QB2, CB2, Cherry and Arnold take on Amon-Ra St. Brown potentially, and to see Jamison Williams are probably top of mind. And another player to watch that people are paying attention to is Hendon Hooker. Mm-hmm. They want to see how he looks throwing the football, given the opportunity there. So for me, there's a lot of good things to pay attention to with the rookies and how they match up. A lot of second-year players that we want to see as well. What do you want to pay attention to? What kind of stories do you want to see come out of all Lions?
Yeah, I want to see what the cornerback room looks like, what that roster might look like, right? I know it's a little bit early for Carlton Davis to maybe be there, but I want to see how Terry and Arnold matches up. I want to see how Rakestraw matches up. I want to see kind of where these guys fit in. A lot of times you can get a little bit of a bead on if they got a little bit of a leg up as they head into minicamp, right? Like you're like, okay, yeah, that guy totally has starter potential all over him, or yeah, that guy is going to start day one. I'd like to see that. I want to get some of that information early. Yes. I totally want to know what they're doing with Hendon Hooker. Look, Hendon Hooker, that draft pick is highly criticized because that pick could have led to you drafting somebody else who would have made a difference on this team going down the stretch. That draft pick could have been another guy who could have filled another role, whether it was an offensive tackle or an offensive guard, or whether it was a defensive end, or whether it was a possible safety, or maybe even a wide receiver that would take that next step forward this year. Instead, you drafted a quarterback, then you went out and you basically made your current quarterback the highest paid quarterback in the league, and you signed him to an extension. So right now, it doesn't look like Hendon Hooker has a huge future as far as being a starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions. So what does that mean? Where does he fall on the depth chart? What does his talent actually look like? We've not actually seen Hendon Hooker really play any meaningful football in, a year and a half? It's been forever. It's been since what was it? Was it Tennessee, Alabama? Was it that game where he hurt his knee? It's been forever since we've seen him. It was in college where he played a meaningful football game. So I want to see what he looks like, especially at this level. There is a huge jump between college and the pros, and I want to see if he's able to make this jump and if his skill set is able to transition and be able to, if something stupid was to happen to Jared Goff, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, knock on wood. But if something stupid was to happen, can this guy fit in? Can he get in? Does he have a rapport with the wide receivers? Is he able to execute plays? Is he able to use some of that mobility that he has and that arm strength that he has and really help open up parts of that playbook that maybe aren't there with Jared Goff? Is he able to do that and give this team a little bit of a different look? Because I would love to see that. And then this is going to be silly, but Vaki, the safety from Utah, who's also a running back, I want to see how they're going to utilize him. I want to see if he's going to maybe play both sides of the ball or if he's going to get snaps on both sides of the ball. I want to see if he's going to be used as a safety, maybe as a nickel corner. I want to see if they're going to use him as a running back or maybe they use him as a slot wide receiver. Look, we both believe he's going to be on special teams, so that I think is a foregone conclusion, but I want to see if he gets snaps on both sides of the ball, and I want to see how he performs. And then finally, I'd like to see what Wingo gives you. This is a guy who I think we all feel like the Lions got a little bit of a steal in that 6th round, drafting this defensive tackle. This is a guy who has drawn comparisons to Aaron Donald for his ability to play inside, play outside. Not saying he's going to be as good as Aaron Donald, but he has the ability to play inside and play outside. And Ndamukong Suh could do the same thing, could play inside, could play outside. And when Ndamukong Suh was on that defensive front, he was a wrecking machine. Can this guy give you snaps like that? I'm not expecting him to be as dominant as either one of those guys, but I'm expecting him to be able to be put in multiple fronts. I'm expecting him to be able to play standing up. I'm expecting him to be able to play with his hand in the dirt and play inside, play outside, and be able to get to the quarterback or collapse that pocket. And I want to see him being able to do that. And that's kind of where my mindset is as we get through OTAs and as we're coming out of them. I want to see these things from these certain players.
No doubt. OTAs will be something fun to pay attention to. Make sure you stay with All Lions and our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast as we bring you everything that we possibly can from Thursday's media sessions and the opportunities that we do get to see from the practice time that we get, probably an hour and a half or so that we'll be out there to see. And then finally, Cuz, what do you make of the opportunity that the Lions have to really shine, because they're going to play a lot of games indoors, not a lot of games, I think 3 to 4 on the schedule, outdoor games. That means Jared Goff can shine. I think this football team, even though they play decent opponents, when you really look at it, that schedule in terms of the venues that they play, the lack of travel that they do, they're not going overseas, I think this sets up well for the Lions based on their schedule. I think it laid out perfectly when it came out.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you 110%. Here's the thing. This team with Jared Goff excels indoors. This team with Jared Goff does so much better when they're at home and when they're inside. Only having to play 3 outdoor games, that favors the Lions so much. It really feels like this is the new NFL team, right?
Yes.
Like, it always feels like the NFL has a team that they like and that they kind of favor a little bit. It's really weird wearing this shoe as a Detroit Lions fan after all those years of getting burned by boner calls or getting burned by referees who are just inventing things up in the middle of games where it's costing you playoff games and it's costing you wins, to now being a team where you look at the schedule when it comes out, and yeah, look, they've got work to do. They definitely have work to do. And it's not like it's some easy schedule, because they've got teams like the Cowboys, they've got teams like the Texans, and they've got to travel to both of those places. Right now, the NFC North looks like it might be one of the toughest divisions in football. So you've got a gauntlet to get through with your own division. But not having to play outside really favors this team, really helps this team along. And if you have 3 games that you have to play outside, I mean, come on. You play 17 games, that means 14 of them are inside. Bro, that hooks you up so much and sets you up in such a winning position. And it'll allow you to possibly get, again, home field advantage through the playoffs if everything works out. So it's going to be interesting. I'm so excited for this Lions season. I'm pumped up, dude. And the way the schedule breaks for them, it could really benefit them. And you could expect to see Jared Goff have another MVP caliber season. And if he does that, I think there's no debate. They made the right decision with the extension. I still don't think there's a debate about that. But there's no debate that they made the right decision with the extension. And this team is going to be a threat for a Super Bowl bid. So it'll be interesting to see what takes place as the season unfolds. But yeah, man, you got hooked up with the schedule makers. You got hooked up with all those games at home. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, if he needs motivation, if he's still looking for things to motivate him based on disrespect, PFF ranked him as the 16th best quarterback. If you go look at their rankings,
That's
I think it's
freaking
really
crazy. If you look at his numbers last year, man, they were
that's
unreal.
really rough. But it's all hey, rankings come out. Everybody's gotten their opinion. PFF has theirs. A lot of times maybe they rank things based on their analytical numbers, based on what they think he's going to accomplish this year. And probably a lot of pundits believe that, hey, that Jared Goff is the product of the system. But, hey, we'll take a top 10 quarterback that plays at the high level, that doesn't turn the football over, is really smart, and has the rapport with a lot of his teammates. So, yes, you're absolutely right in everything that you said. It just seems like the stars, for some reason, are aligning, and it's through hard work and Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and the roster that they built with a lot of young cats. You've seen the PFF top 25 under 25 list, and that just indicates that, hey, when you got 5 guys and arguably 6 that deserve to be on that list, hey, this football team is not probably going to be a one-hit wonder. And even though they're giving out those contracts with the salary cap going up and the ability to maneuver it, the one concern I would say from this week is that they did lose their contract guy. They're starting to get raided, and that's a sign of a good organization. The Commanders are coming in and raiding the Detroit Lions, and Sosna is a guy now that was in charge of doing the contracts. Probably his last mission was to handle the golf contract, and now he's off to the Commanders, and we'll see how that shakes out moving forward in terms of replacing some of these high-level individuals that the Lions have brought in. But that's a sign of a good organization, is if you're doing good work, then others are going to come in and pinch everything that you got going on. So make sure you stay with the Detroit Sports Podcast Networks and All Lions for all the coverage this week about the Lions, as we're there at Allen Park, kind of bringing everybody information regarding what's going on. Make sure you follow our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ, and his spectacular Spider-Man cup that is drawing rave reviews online from the time that he posted it. The man is drinking 29 ounces of coffee from a Spider-Man cup. That's all you need to really know about my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Down to the core, a good dude, passionate sports guy, and now proud papa to KJ. And it's going to be great to see this journey. As always, feel free, message anytime. It's crazy. There's nothing that you could ask I haven't been to. And the same advice I gave you before, I'll say it on air. Any advice that you need, just message, and I'll ask my wife, and I'll find out what she did. Because that wasn't me doing all the work back in the day. I was doing this as we were grinding, and it's all good, man. And I know you'll be much better off when the messages fly back and forth, and we find out that Adam did this and Adam did that. I'll be like, I didn't do any of that. But that's because I was building a practice, building a podcast, and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So the baby changing diapers and the waking up at 4 a.m. was not the Doc's strong suit. And the wife was smart enough to realize, I don't think I want my John to be doing that. I think we just let him go off to the office and do his thing. So, cuz, congrats, everybody here at the podcast. Vito, everybody's excited. My kids are definitely thrilled. Everybody's thrilled. It was the best part of my week to get into that hospital. St. John has a lot of good memories, a lot of times in that building, a lot of times in that hospital. To see friends and family have their kids and to walk in there was great. To see the baby was spectacular, and it's going to be a fun ride all the way through. And welcome to the family, to the newest baby, and it's going to be great. It's all in good. It's a good time for you and the family, and I just want you to relish it and enjoy it.
I appreciate it, man. Look to Twitter. I'll probably post some pictures of her if you're interested in seeing what the baby looks like. I think she's a good-looking baby.
Yeah.
Me and the wife had this conversation before. We're like, look, we both kind of agree. If we have an ugly baby, we need to tell each other. And because, like, look, man, a lot of people that have kids are like, oh my God, my kid's beautiful. My kid's beautiful. And then you look at the kid and the kid looks like a gremlin. And you're like, what are you looking at? The kid is not beautiful at all. We told ourselves early on, we're like, cute. If we have an ugly kid, we need to tell each other.
Okay.
And I think that we have a pretty good looking kid. I think the kid's got some pretty quality features from both of us, and I think she's a beautiful baby girl. So we'll see what happens. But I'll post some pictures, and if you think my baby's ugly, let me know. It's fine. It's not going to hurt my feelings.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Great podcast episode, one for the books, 564 for KJ, dedicated to the beautiful addition to the Strozinski family. Cuz, great shit. Can't wait to fire it up next week. Let me know anything you need. I can't wait for the next week to keep seeing the pictures and to see how this everything shakes out in the world of Detroit sports. Man, I can't wait for next week to fire it up, call my guy for the latest and greatest edition of Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.